That's Alonzo.
It's my family, day.
Just for my brother.
Picture this. A young man sits alone on a bus, staring out the window as Houston's skyline fades in the distance. The destination sign reads simply Charter. No specific city, no clear endpoint. Most viewers assume Jason and Lyric make it to Dallas, found their happy ending, escaped the violence that consumed their world. But what if I told you there's compelling evidence they never made it out alive? What if the first opening scene isn't a beginning, but an ending? Welcome back to Prime Time Throwback, where we dig deep into the stories behind the stories. Today, we're exploring Jason's Lyric, the 1994 classic that redefined Black romance on screen. But beneath its surface of passion and poetry lies a treasure trove of secrets that even die-hard fans don't know about. From studio battles over Black intimacy to hidden Houston landmarks, from devastating script changes to fan theories that'll blow your mind, these 12 facts will completely transform how you see this beloved film. The most shocking revelation: in Bobby Smith Jr.'s original screenplay, Lyric was not supposed to survive. Joshua's gunshot wasn't aimed at her shoulder, it was aimed at her head. Producer Doug McHenry confirmed that the original ending had Joshua accidentally killing Lyric, making Jason's journey on that bus a solo trip to nowhere. The studio deemed this ending too dark and gruesome, especially considering the film already contained the profoundly traumatic scene of a young Jason killing his father. But that opening bus scene suddenly makes perfect sense when you know Lyric was meant to die. Jason sits alone, destination unknown, because in the original vision, he truly was alone. The charter sign wasn't about hope, it was about a man with nowhere left to go. This single change shifted the entire emotional landscape from pure tragedy to fragile hope. But it also created what some call unintentional confusion in the narrative flow. The studio wanted their hero, but in saving Lyric's life, they may have blurred the film's emotional clarity. Jason's Lyric faced an NC17 rating, not because of its gunplay or drug deals, but because of 60 seconds of intimate footage between Alan Payne and Jada Pinkett Smith. Director Doug McHenry didn't mince words about this hypocrisy. He accused the MPAA of being uncomfortable with Black intimacy, pointing out that explicit violence was far more acceptable than consensual Black love. The filmmakers were forced to cut a full minute of additional intimate scenes to secure the R rating that would originally allow wide theatrical distribution. Think about that for a sec. A film that deliberately includes violence to create jeopardy for its target audience had to sanitize its love scenes. This wasn't just ratings, it was erasure, determining which aspects of Black life mainstream America was comfortable seeing on screen. McHenry's words ring even more true today. This was quiet censorship, the type that still shapes how Black intimacy is portrayed in the movies. It reveals a systemic bias where Black sexuality was viewed as more threatening than comparable violence. Unlike most hood films of the 90s that defaulted to LA or New York, Jason's Lyric made Houston's third ward its heartbeat, but the film's commitment to authenticity goes deeper than just setting. It captures a Houston that's largely vanished. Lyric worked at the original This Is Soul Food on West Gray. The restaurant since moved to Blodgett Street in the 3rd Ward. Jason's TV repair shop just up the block is now a barber shop. The Alexander family home sat at the corner of Tuam and Sauer Streets, around the corner from Ralston Liquor Store, which somehow still stands today. But here's a location that'll give you chills. That romantic picnic where Jason and Lyric watched the sunset over downtown Houston, it was filmed on an abandoned trestle over Buffalo Bayou near Studemont. That railroad trestle has been demolished. The film preserved a piece of Houston that no longer exists, making every frame a historical document. The basketball scenes were shot in historic Freedmanstown in the 4th Ward. Critics noted that Houston's skyline appears throughout the film like a mystic emerald city, unattainable to the characters. Houston wasn't a setting, it was a silent antagonist representing dreams that were just always out of reach. Cinematographer Francis Kenny had a radical vision for Jason's Lyric. He wanted it to look like a French New Wave love story. Using Truffaut-inspired framing, Zeiss high-speed lenses, and Kodak's cutting-edge 5297 film stock, Kenny pushed the visual aesthetic far beyond the gritty realism expected from typical urban dramas. Director McHenry specifically requested Truffaut imagery, aiming to give the Third Ward the same poetic quality Truffaut brought to Paris streets. Kenny's use of organic camera movement, allowing actors' motions to dictate the shots, created an intimacy that elevated the material. The result was a film that looked more like Jules and Jim than Boys in the Hood. This sophisticated visual approach challenged genre expectations and helped establish Jason's Lyric as something completely new, a film that refused to be boxed into the limited visual vocabulary typically assigned to Black urban stories. This wasn't just a soundtrack, it was the Avengers of 90s R&B. The soundtrack wasn't just music, it was a cultural movement. You Will Know by Black Men United brought together a literal supergroup. D'Angelo, Usher, R. Kelly, Boyz II Men, Brian McKnight, and Keith Sweat all collaborating on a single track. But the album's depth goes far beyond its star power. Hidden sample details reveal the film's roots in hip-hop and R&B tradition. Forget I Was a G by Whitehead Brothers contains a replayed sample from Kool and the Gang's Jungle Boogie, while Mint Conditions' If Trouble Was Money samples a Tribe Called Quest, God Lives Through. This wasn't just a soundtrack, it was a generational anthem designed to mirror the film's themes of black male vulnerability and brotherhood. The collaboration represented something unprecedented. Major R&B artists coming together not for clarity, but to celebrate black love and emotional honesty. Hey, if you're discovering things about Jason's Lyric you never knew before, hit that like button and let me know what other 90s classics deserve the deep dive treatment. While Alan Payne carried the title role, many believe Bokeem Woodbine as Joshua delivered the film's most devastating performance. His portrayal of trauma, addiction, and jealousy was so raw that fans still argue he deserved the Oscar. Woodbine brought layers to Joshua that transformed him from a simple antagonist into a broken soul. His line, "She's taking you away from me," became a generational cry of pain, expressing the fear of abandonment that drives so much destructive behavior in traumatized communities. The performance captured how childhood trauma manifests in adult relationships, making Joshua both sympathetic and terrifying. Despite the darkness of his character, Woodbine remembered the set fondly, noting the cast had a mad fun time with no friction. This speaks to the professionalism that allowed such emotionally heavy material to be explored safely. Forest Whitaker, known for noble and gentle characters, took on his most disturbing role as Mad Dog, the traumatized Vietnam vet whose abuse destroyed his family. This wasn't just acting against type, it was a deliberate exploration of how untreated trauma perpetuates cycles of violence. Gloria's haunting line about Mad Dog captures the film's deeper theme. Nobody killed Mad Dog, he died in that war. They just didn't bury him. This wasn't about an abusive father, it was about how war trauma left untreated can destroy generations. The film subtly attributed the family's dysfunction to unaddressed mental health issues passed down through trauma. Whitaker's willingness to portray such a disturbing character revealed the film's commitment to examining the roots of dysfunction rather than simply depicting its effects. Some fans believe Jada Pinkett Smith channeled her real-life love for Tupac into her portrayal of Lyric. Whether this holds water or not, Pinkett Smith brought such authentic intensity that it sparked decades of speculation. She noted having to get in touch with her feminine side to play the dreamier romanticist. The authenticity of her performance created one of cinema's most memorable portrayals of 90s black femininity. Jason Lyric quietly revolutionized how women function in urban dramas. Lyric, Gloria, and Marty weren't just love interests or suffering moms. They were anchors who challenged and redirected the men's destructive patterns. Gloria's rejection of drug money with "Till I Die I Feed My Family That Money" was an act of moral resistance that defined her character's strength. Marty provided sharp-tongued realism and comic relief, offering necessary perspective on relationships and life. Lyric offered dreamscape optimism and poetic vision that inspired Jason to see beyond his immediate circumstances. These women weren't just passive victims waiting to be saved. They were active agents of change, subverting the typical roles assigned to women in hood films and providing the emotional intelligence the male characters lacked. Here's a mind-blowing fact. Suzanne Douglas, who played Jason's mom Gloria, was only 11 years older than Alan Payne in real life. The convincing mother-son dynamic was achieved entirely through performance, highlighting the cast's amazing skill. Alan Payne recently compared Jason Lyric's fanbase to Rocky Horror Picture Show audiences, noting that during stage adaptation, fans were giving you your lines, reciting the dialogue word for word. This level of engagement is rare for dramatic films and speaks to the deep emotional connection the movie forged with its audiences. This participatory fan culture led directly to the recent stage adaptation, proving that Jason's Lyric didn't just create viewers, it created a ritual, a community. The film's quotable dialogue and emotional depth fostered an unusually strong connection that transformed casual viewing into active participation. Finally, the theory that changes everything. Persistent fan speculation suggests Jason and Lyric never actually made it to Dallas alive. The theory interprets the film as a spiritual journey, suggesting they made it only in death. Evidence? That opening bus scene where Jason sits alone, the charter sign with no destination, the film's themes of inescapable trauma. Knowing the original script had Lyric dying makes this theory pretty compelling. Maybe the happy ending feels too neat because it was never meant to be happy. Maybe the film's real message isn't about literal escape, but about love transcending death itself. Jason's Lyric emerged from studio battles and creative compromises to becoming something unprecedented, redefining what Black love could look like on screen. It paved the way for Love Jones, Soul Food, and The Best Man, establishing a new template for urban romance. 30 years later, its influence endures in a devoted fan base that turned a movie into a ritual. Whether Jason and Lyric make it to Dallas or found each other in eternity, their story resonates because it dared to show Black love as complex, poetic, and worth fighting for. And maybe that image, Jason alone on the bus, was never about escape. It was about memory, loss, and even in the pain, love still lingers. Subscribe to Prime Time Throwback for more deep dives into the films that shaped us, and let me know in the comments, what other 90s classics are hiding secrets worth uncovering?